Someone! Help my sister! Is there a doctor here? A woman's desperate cry echoed through the train car. Yes, I'm a former doctor, I said as I approached, seeing a girl in a wheelchair clutching her chest in agony. It hurts. The girl, drenched in cold sweat, managed to whisper. But even I felt a slight tremor facing this scene. I was once called a genius surgeon. But now, I feel unworthy of calling myself a doctor or holding a scalpel. I had completely lost my confidence, but the woman in front of me bowed her head to me. Please, help my sister. I took a deep breath and steeled myself. How are you feeling after the surgery? Thanks to you, I'm doing great every day. It was worth the trip to see Dr. Smith. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Seeing a patient recover and meeting them in good health is the greatest joy. Patients who come to me are usually those who couldn't be cured or were refused surgery due to difficulty. Most wouldn't survive long without treatment. At 38, I was unusually fast-tracked to become the lead heart surgeon. Hearing my reputation, patients from all over the country flocked to our hospital. Because of this, I rarely got to visit my hometown. After work, I returned home to find my phone ringing. Hello, David? Oh, Sarah? What's up? It was my sister from my hometown. Nothing much, just worried about you. Are you eating properly with your busy schedule? Sarah, I'm 39 already. I chuckled. Even as I neared 40, my sister, 12 years older, still treated me like a kid. Our parents passed away early, so Sarah always took care of me. Are you seeing anyone? Sarah, you asked me that 2 days ago. How could I find a girlfriend in that time? I just worry about you. I'll let you know the moment I have a girlfriend, so don't worry. Sarah is single too. Our parents died young, and we were raised by our grandparents. When our grandparents needed care, it coincided with Sarah's prime years, and she spent all her time looking after them. Seeing her, I once considered giving up my dream of becoming a doctor. David, you're smart, so don't give up on being a doctor. I'll manage somehow. Sarah cared for our grandparents, working day and night, to get me through medical school. 3 years ago, Grandpa passed away, and Grandma 6 months ago, leaving Sarah living alone now. Sarah has endured so much hardship, so I want her to find a good person and be happy before I do. Dr. Smith, there's a call from someone claiming to be your sister. Shall I connect it? One day, Sarah called directly to the university hospital where I worked. Sarah? I was preparing for heart surgery, about to head to the OR. I have to start surgery right now. Tell her I'll call back once it's done. Understood. It's unusual for her to call the hospital. She usually calls my cell at night. It's the first time I've received a call directly at the hospital. Despite thinking that, I was already in full concentration mode for the major surgery ahead. Though it worried me a bit, I decided to call back as soon as the surgery was over. Alright, let's get started. I looked at myself in the mirror, clad in my surgical gown, and steeled myself. My name is David Smith. I'm a 39-year-old cardiac surgeon at a major hospital. I excelled in school as a child, so becoming a doctor wasn't particularly difficult. However, I'm not very good at interacting with people, so even after 13 years as a doctor, I find talking to patients more nerve-wracking than performing surgery. Because of my personality and the demanding nature of my job, I've missed opportunities to meet someone, so I'm still single. That's why my sister Sarah, who lives in the countryside, worries about me. Alright, let's begin. Thank you, everyone. At my words, the team around the operating table nodded firmly, and the nurse handed me the scalpel. After 6 long hours, the surgery was successfully completed, and I finally checked my phone in the doctor's lounge to call Sarah back. I saw missed calls and messages from Sarah. The timestamps showed they came right after she called the hospital. I quickly played the message. David, it's me. I called because I had a headache. Call me back when you can. Hearing that, I had a bad feeling. During our recent video call, Sarah's face seemed unusually puffy. Despite calling multiple times, she didn't answer, and while I was in a conference preparing for my night shift, my phone rang. The caller ID showed it was from Sarah. Hello, Sarah? Are you Sarah's brother? The voice on the phone was a man's, not Sarah's. Yes, I am. I am the head of the neighborhood association where Sarah lives. A delivery person found her collapsed at the front door. And she was taken to the hospital. What? Is she okay? My shout startled the doctors and nurses around me. She hasn't regained consciousness. I understand. I'll be there on the first train tomorrow morning. The next morning, I headed to the hospital where Sarah was admitted, but she never woke up again. I held Sarah's funeral and returned to work immediately. Patients who need me to save their lives come every day. I don't have time to wallow in grief. Suppressing my sorrow, I continued to face difficult cases and anxious patients day after day. And today, I'm performing another surgery. Scalpel, please. Yes. I reached for the scalpel from the nurse as usual. Oh. I fumbled the scalpel, and it clattered to the floor. I'm so sorry. I took another scalpel. David, are you all right? The surgical assistant looked at me with concern. After the surgery, I collapsed onto the couch in the doctor's lounge. David, you seem exhausted lately. Are you feeling unwell? My colleague peered at my face with worry. Since Sarah's funeral, I haven't been able to sleep at all. You are her only family, after all. I understand. He said sympathetically. Recently, I had been dropping instruments during surgery, misnaming conditions, and almost leaving gauze inside patients near medical accidents that would have been unthinkable before. I used to be flawless. Now, the thought of causing an irreparable accident loomed over me. As these thoughts consumed me, my hands started trembling while holding a scalpel or a needle. David, you might be suffering from depression. What? Me, depressed? You've been working tirelessly to save patients. I think taking some time off and doing what you want most would be good for you. Diagnosed with depression by Stephen, a psychiatrist at the same hospital, I had to face the truth. The thing I want most right now. I murmured, thinking deeply. I want to go back to my hometown and be near Sarah. I felt sorry for the patients who came from afar to see me, and as a senior doctor, teaching the next generation was also important. But I had no energy left to consider those things anymore. Robert, could you accept this? I placed an envelope on the director's desk. This is a resignation letter. I understand you've been struggling, David, but isn't resigning too drastic? Robert, the hospital director, couldn't hide his shock. If I keep working as a doctor, I'm afraid I'll eventually cause a major accident. Even if I take a leave of absence, the pressure to return quickly would crush me. Please, let me resign. All right. I'll hold on to this. Reluctantly, Robert accepted my resignation. I'm sorry. I shook his hand and left the hospital. Planning to move back to my hometown, I gave up my apartment and boarded a northbound train. As I gazed out the window at the passing scenery, I reflected on my medical career. There were countless memories. Like receiving applause for presenting new surgical techniques at conferences and the joy of curing patients deemed untreatable by other hospitals. The world called me a genius doctor, but I believed it was all the result of my hard work. While my colleagues attended parties, I was reading papers, reviewing past surgeries, devising new techniques, and practicing sutures. I dedicated my entire life to my work. I always thought heart surgery was my calling, but to end up quitting due to depression was something I never imagined. However, right now, all I wanted was to see Sarah. Even if I couldn't see her, I wanted to be in a place where I could feel her presence. That was all I could think about. As I was lost in thought, I noticed commotion at the front of the train car. Help my sister. Someone. Is there a doctor here? A woman's desperate cry echoed. Peering down the aisle, I saw a crowd forming, with train crew rushing over. Yes, I'm a former doctor, I said. Instinctively, I found myself getting up and walking over. A girl in a wheelchair was clutching her chest in pain. Does she have any medical conditions? I asked the woman next to her. My sister has a heart condition. What should I do? Hang in there, Jennifer. Jessica, it hurts. Then, a crew member called out from behind. Please get off at the next station. An ambulance is on its way. Thank you. Thank you so much. The woman holding the suffering girl's hand was in tears. I wish I could stay with you, but I have somewhere I need to be. No, it's all right. I'm sorry for the trouble. We'll head straight to the hospital. When I said this to the woman, she nodded gratefully to me. At the next station, the sisters got off the train and were taken to the hospital by waiting paramedics. As the train slowly started moving again, I thought to myself, there isn't a hospital in the country that doesn't know me as a cardiac surgeon. The name David Smith, the genius heart surgeon, is known nationwide. If I had accompanied those sisters to the hospital, the staff there would surely have been astonished to see me. But as someone who had just submitted a resignation letter, there was nothing I could do. The drive to save patients at any cost that I once had no longer burned within me. And so, I finally arrived at my family home in the north. The house where Sarah had lived remained unchanged, with a mantel displaying photos of our grandparents, parents, and Sarah. I'm home, Sarah, I said, looking at Sarah's gentle smile in the photo. While organizing Sarah's belongings, I found a large number of files. What is this? Flipping through them, I discovered they were scrapbooks filled with newspaper articles and magazine features about me. Sarah! I hugged the scrapbook and cried aloud. My hometown had a chronic shortage of doctors. So, news of my return spread quickly, and soon, strangers started visiting, and local hospitals extended job offers. But I declined them all and lived almost as a recluse. The doorbell rang unexpectedly about a year into this lifestyle. Yes? Who is it? I heard that the famous heart surgeon, Dr. Smith, lives here. A young woman's voice came through the intercom. I'm not a doctor anymore. Please leave, I replied. Most people would leave quietly after that, but this woman was different. No, I won't leave until you see me. I need you to help my sister. But even if you say that. I was perplexed. We'll spend the night outside your door, my sister and I. What? Your sister is with you? Yes. Reluctantly, I opened the door and was surprised by what I saw. But I wasn't the only one surprised. The two women pointed at me, eyes wide in shock. You're the girl from the train? Yes. I had no idea that the man who helped us was the famous Dr. Smith. I invited them inside to hear their story. They introduced themselves as Jessica and her sister Jennifer. Jennifer is a promising snowboarder, expected to compete in the Olympics, but she's been short of breath recently. We had her checked. And they found a heart condition. The surgery needed is very complex, and every hospital has turned us away, Jessica said, tearing up. Jennifer looked worriedly at her sister. What happened after you were taken to the hospital that day? I asked. They sent us home once the pain subsided. Then, I started researching and found out about you. We never imagined that someone as renowned as you would be available to people like us living in a small town. But we had to try for Jennifer's sake. I had one burning question. How did you find my house? The hospital told us you had resigned but wouldn't give us your address. So we came to your hometown and asked around until we found you. To search for someone in an unfamiliar town with a wheelchair-bound sister showed incredible determination. Especially in the middle of winter. The sisters had no parents, much like Sarah and I, and Jessica had been taking care of Jennifer. Jennifer had a talent for snowboarding, and Jessica had worked hard to help her realize that potential. We're the same. What? I lost my parents too. My sister sacrificed her own happiness to make me a doctor. She suddenly passed away about a year ago. I was so busy with work that I didn't notice her condition. All I have now is regret. As I looked up at Sarah's memorial photo, the sisters went to the mantel and paid their respects. Dr. Smith, can you cure my heart? For Jessica's sake too. Jennifer pleaded earnestly. I'm sorry. I can't. I replied coldly, and the sisters' faces froze. But I couldn't muster the passion for the work I once had. I'll introduce you to my former hospital. There are excellent doctors there, so please don't worry. It's late now, so if you like, you can stay here tonight. I'll accompany you to the hospital tomorrow. I called Robert. He seemed surprised to hear from me suddenly, but he agreed to help after I explained the sisters' situation. So, I offered the sisters a place to stay for the night. We stayed up late talking about our pasts and families, laughing a lot. I can't remember the last time I laughed this much, I said. Jennifer responded. Jessica has been so worried about me that I haven't seen her laugh in years. It's been a long time since we both laughed this much. The next day, I took the sisters to my former workplace. It was my first time back in a year. Oh. David. It's been a while. How have you been? Walking down the hallway to the director's office, former colleagues greeted me one after another. Oh, sorry for the trouble I caused, I replied. No trouble at all. Wait, did you get married back home? Several colleagues glanced at the sisters beside me. I had to repeatedly clarify until we finally reached the director's office. David, long time no see. You look well. Robert extended his hand. I introduced the sisters and requested the most trusted surgeon to take charge. But Robert slowly shook his head. David, you should do it. Me? Are you serious? Since I submitted my resignation and moved back to the countryside, I hadn't heard from the hospital even once. I knew my resignation letter was still with Robert, but being away from the operating room for a year felt more significant than resigning. I've been away from the field for a year. I can't do it. I pleaded with Robert. We analyzed Jennifer's condition with her previous hospital records. You're the best person for this surgery. You can do it. As I struggled to respond, the sisters both pleaded, please. This has been sitting in my desk for a year. You were just dormant. Isn't it time to wake up? As he said that, Robert waved the envelope containing my resignation letter in front of me. Today is Jennifer's surgery day. Jessica couldn't hide her anxiety. It's all right. Leave it to me. I'll make sure Jennifer recovers. Please, we're counting on you. Dressed in surgical scrubs for the first time in a year, I put on my surgical loops. I felt an unexpected surge of strength. Let's begin. Thank you, everyone. The nurses and assistants surrounding Jennifer on the operating table nodded firmly at my words. Scalpel, please. Yes. I took the scalpel firmly and began the incision into her heart. All right, I'm clamping the aorta now. Okay. Reaching the critical part, I switched to the heart-lung machine to temporarily stop the heart. Jennifer is only 13 years old. Considering her body's stress, I had to finish the surgery as quickly and accurately as possible. Seeing her heart, I understood why other hospitals hesitated to perform the surgery. Releasing the aortic clamp. Okay. With all steps completed, I released the aortic clamp, and her heart started beating strongly again. Jennifer, you did great. It's over now. I had successfully completed the 7-hour surgery. Back in the recovery room, Jessica approached me, looking anxious. The surgery was successful. She'll be able to exercise without any problems in the future. Thank you so much. Jessica whispered her thanks with a voice choked with emotion. Hold Jennifer's hand. Yes, her hand is warm. It was always as cold as ice. Jessica said, tears streaming down her face as she held Jennifer's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. Dr. Smith. You need to lower your center of gravity. Right, sorry, whoa. Wearing a snowboard, I tumbled spectacularly on the slopes. Being a doctor requires physical endurance, but the stamina for sports is different. A year had passed since Jennifer's surgery. I was now at a ski resort in my hometown with the sisters. Jennifer had fully recovered and had become a tough coach for my first snowboarding lesson. Since the surgery, our relationship had grown beyond doctor and patient's family. I had moved out of my small apartment and into a family-sized one where we lived together. We often visited my hometown to pay respects at Sarah's grave and enjoy some leisure time. Sarah, you worried a lot about me. But I'm doing fine now, so rest easy. The three of us stood together, offering our prayers at the grave. I hadn't proposed to Jessica yet, but I was determined. A ring box was hidden in my desk drawer at the hospital. Ouch. What's wrong, David? Another doctor asked as I rubbed my sore leg. I'm really sore from snowboarding. My words brought laughter to the doctor's lounge. Thinking back to my workaholic past, my colleagues and even Sarah in heaven probably couldn't imagine me snowboarding with such a wobbly stance. Today, I had another major surgery. The patient and their family were counting on me. I changed into my surgical scrubs and stood in front of the mirror. "All right, let's do this," I murmured, facing my reflection in the mirror.